beyond the stuff you've accomplished, what is your message for the men in this room specifically, to earn their vote specifically?
Well, I think that one of the reasons that we're doing so well with African Americans, look, we're not taking the African American female vote for granted, or any other male or female vote of any other demographic that's in our state. I mean, we have a message and a record, I believe, that can resonate with most Georgians. And so, we are taking that to those individual voters that we feel like we can persuade, because, it's the same message to the men that are here this morning. It's, you had a governor that when no one was looking, or when everybody was criticizing on both sides, stood up and did what was right for you. I wasn't worried about people in prominent places. I wasn't worried about what Stacey Abrams was criticizing me on. I wasn't worried about the national media, the local media, the healthcare pundits that were, literally getting paid to sit in their basement when many other people were not, that were criticizing policymakers for me. I was worried about people like you, people that were really at the risk of losing everything they got. They were worried about their families and what their future's going to be and where they were going to go. And, I think that's resonated not just with African American men. I think it's resonated with a lot of other people. And, that's what I'm going to continue to do. And I think, you look at our record, we've given economic opportunity to everybody in this state. As a small business owner for over 35 years, I've seen that. I know how hard it is. I've been there where you had a tough time with access to capital. You had a tough time, selling something. Couldn't pay all your bills. Had to refinance my house. I'm paying for it a second time because we were about to lose it during the Great Recession, because I was a builder and a developer. And we had, like a lot of other people, things went south and a couple of bad business deals. But we had enough on the good side to help us fight through that. But Marty can tell you, those were not pleasant conversations that we were having. It wasn't just one Friday, it was Friday after Friday, month after month after month. Because y'all remember how long the recovery was. But that's what I think people resonate me with more than anything, is I have been fighting for them. And for females that are out there, whether they're African American or anything else, I was also the one fighting to get our kids back in the classroom, and I took a lot of criticism for that. There's a lot of people in this state that cannot work if their kids are not in school. And during the pandemic, even when the schools here were playing pandemic politics and wouldn't open, we were funding YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs so that people had programs during the day where their kids could go get physical exercise, they could interact with other kids, which they needed, but also so a lot of our healthcare workers could actually go work in our hospitals that were, obviously facing a really strange time. And I think a lot of people realize that. I think they also realize they've had a governor that has fought in every neighborhood to keep people safe and has worked with anybody and everybody to help do that. Georgians deserve that. It doesn't matter whether you live in, Buckhead or South Atlanta or on the west side, or if you live on the west side of the state or any other part of the state. People need to have safe neighborhoods. And we have a lot of work we need to continue to do, but people can at least know that we're in the fight. And our crime suppression unit has been. We were arrested in the last year working with the Atlanta Police Department and the Fulton County Sheriff and a lot of other local law enforcement. We arrested 600 people, 600 that had outstanding warrants, 29 of those outstanding murder warrants. And I'm just committed to continuing to do that. Because, the other thing, Shelley, that I think people need to realize is, as a father of 3 daughters, I know how important it is for our kids to get a good education. I know how important it is for them to be in school and have that interaction. Because when COVID first hit, Amy Porter, our youngest daughter, was a high school junior. So we saw her senior friends, kids that we had grown up with, watching them in rec, basketball, football game on Friday night in gyms all over the state and other things. Those kids did not get a normal end of the school year. They didn't get to play spring sports. They didn't get to go to band practice. They didn't get to be in robotics competitions. They didn't get a normal graduation. I mean, it's heartbreaking to see that. And I didn't want our kids to go do that the second year. You know, Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia was down there last week, and he talked about this. They kept their schools closed, I think, a year longer than ours. A year. I mean, could you imagine where those kids are now? We're now seeing the detriment of that. As much criticism as I caught from Stacey Abrams and a lot of other pundits when we pushed to get our kids in the classroom, we're now seeing what Dr. Toomey and I's worries were, learning gap losses and other things. Well, thankfully, our state is in much better shape, I believe, than most others. And we're doing a lot. We're going to do a lot in the second term that we announced the other day to help schools have grants for kids that fell behind. But also to help get more quality teachers in the classroom. And we've done that with our teacher pipeline legislation. We're working with our HBCUs on that as well. And we've got a plan to give grants to 9,000 parapros to help them get their teacher certification and not have to come out of pocket to do that. So we can get better teachers and more of them in the classroom for our kids. And you know, people saw that I was fighting for that when, quite honestly, a lot of the Democrats, including my opponent, wanted kids to stay at home behind a computer screen. And again, when I met, and this is the point I wanted to make. Sorry, I got long-winded there, but you know, I met with athletic directors, and I met with teachers and superintendents, and they were telling me, Governor, you got to get these kids back in the classroom. And they said, we're normally recruiting our 13 and 14-year-olds to start getting them sports programs so they'll be ready when they get into high school. And they said, we're not able to do that because we can't see these kids. They're not getting mentored. They're not getting what they need from us. But you know who's getting to them? The street gangs are. They're recruiting. The 13, 14-year-olds, the gangs are recruiting them because they're not in the classroom, they're walking the streets during COVID. And so that's one of the reasons, I mean, I was listening to those people because they are literally on the front lines of that, you know, really that tragedy that we were seeing, and that's why we did what we did. Again, fighting for hard-working Georgians.
We want to go to our audience. We have the wireless mic. I believe King Randall. Please talk to him after this, but I talked to him before he came up, and he did have a question. Did you want to ask a question?